Six Flags Darien Lake is one of my home parks, and I've been visiting this place since 2007, right when it was dropped from being a member of the Six Flags chain. I've been to this park numerous times over the years, so I know it fairly well. So today, we're going to look at Darien Lake, the good, the bad, and the ugly. For those of you who don't know where Darien Lake is, it's located in western New York. It's 36 miles from Buffalo, 52 miles from Rochester, and 128 miles from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Why am I including this fact? Besides the Buffalo and Rochester areas, it can pull in guests from southern Ontario and the Golden Horseshoe, so Hamilton, Niagara Falls, and Toronto, the same market as Canada's Wonderland. In fact, these two parks are separated by 137 miles and the US-Canada border. So there's a fair amount of cities that this park can pull guests in from. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, let's get into some goods. This park has some themed areas, a main street, if you will, that greets you when you enter the park, the boardwalk area surrounding the main lake, and the family area of Rowdy's Ridge. While not major on theming, it's the little touches that help make this park stand apart from being just generic midways. Another plus for this park is its expansive water park, the future Six Flags Hurricane Harbor, which is included with admission. Over the last decade or so, and all of the different ownerships, they've been constantly adding to and improving the water park. If you can think of a water park attraction, they've added it. Everything short of a water coaster, but there's always a chance of that in the future. Alright, time for some bads. While this park is good on the water side, the same can't be said for the dry park. It lacks in the flat ride department, with only a handful. A Larson Loop, a Skyflyer, and S&S Space Shot being the most notable. This was once a showcase for Huss attractions during the Aero Huss days. While a few of the stars from this era of the park are still here, including a corn popper, most of these rides have been removed due to age, or what I believe is a lack of an availability for replacement parts. While we're on the subject of flat rides, family ones are just as bare as the thrills. With the removal of the park's centerpiece giant wheel, the park only has a handful of family rides, from a carousel, a family set of swings, a haymaker, and a scrambler. Okay, let's get back to some more good things. This park has plenty of room for expansion. Part of the reasoning I thought Six Flags bought this park back was its room and the close proximity to Canada's Wonderland. So we'll see if my thoughts are true. This park also, pre-COVID, had a nighttime spectacular Laser Blast, a pyrotechnic show with lasers, music, and fireworks that was the perfect way to end a day. However, due to lingering effects of the pandemic and labor shortages, we did not see this return in 2021, and hopefully it'll be back in the future. Okay, on to the one most people care about, the park's coaster collection. For this section, I'll give the goods and bads of each respective ride, but I'll start off with the two uglies that all of these rides share. The first one's the most obvious, and the one you've heard every YouTuber who's visited this park complain about, One Train Ops. For the better part of the last few years, all of the coasters have and only run with one train. The exceptions being Tantrum, which opened in 2018 and came with two, and Viper. However, with Viper, they swap out the trains that they use every other year from what I've heard. If this is true, I can't be too mad, since it's an old Arrow, and I know these trains and parts are hard to find nowadays. They also run these coasters with a skeleton crew, or bare minimum people to operate, usually 3 to 4, depending if they have a person at the entrance. Now, I have no real issue with this. However, because of this, they let everyone load into the platform behind the safety gates. Again, not a giant issue, but it does make it pretty confusing to get in a row for a particular set of seats. The biggest offender of this ride is Ride of Steel, which has always had a jam-packed station. Alright, one more con. The park's Go Fast Pass system. The way they implement it is not something I'm a huge fan of. I'm not against a Fast Pass system if it's done correctly. However, this park has no real cohesive way of implementing it. You can use the pass by waiting in the exit lines, and they're supposed to only let 4 people on per cycle into designated rows that are blocked off. The system doesn't really go much faster than the main lines due to the one train ops, let alone how tight some of the exit ways are. Ride of Steel, for example. But if the park's extremely busy and the Fast Pass line is crazy, they will let a full train of just Go Fast Pass people get on the ride, sometimes consecutively. Other parks can do this in a much neater fashion, so the execution of this is inexcusable in my opinion. Okay, now on to the ride by ride. Let's start with Mindy Racer, the park's Vekoma SLC. This ride, like any SLC, will beat you up. Thankfully for me, my last ride in 2021 didn't beat me up as bad as I expected. Maybe they've done some good upkeep, maybe it's because my head clears the shoulder restraints, so I don't headbang. Or maybe I just rode defensively enough that I was able to enjoy the ride. It's a solid ride, but could use some more TLC. It has frequent breakdowns when I was there this season, not to mention slow ops. Also, the next gen SLC trains and a fresh coat of paint would be a nice touch if this ride's going to stick around longer. The Franken train, as we call it, made of the best ride vehicles from the 2 original trains, will only last and go so far. Now on to the OG, the Viper, and in my opinion, the best Viper of the Six Flags chain. Disclaimer, I've only ridden one other Viper, and that's the one at Six Flags Magic Mountain, so take that for what it's worth. This classic aero runs fairly smooth aside from the usual aero transitions, but they're not as bad and sometimes barely even noticeable. Also, this could run 2 trains if they didn't rotate the trains year after year as I mentioned earlier. However, if this is how a nearly 40-year-old aero can still thrive and keep it running for years to come, I can get behind it, if it lets it stick around for the long haul. I really don't have anything bad to say about this one. It's my favorite aero looper that I've ridden. Now onto the park's launch coaster, the Zamperla Moto Coaster. This ride has a decent launch. It's fun to pretend you're flying around like you're Iron Man if you let go of the handlebars. Or if you can remember Sega's Hang On series of video games, you can imagine you're running on one of the game's courses. This is a great intermediate/family coaster. However, it's a bad capacity ride and needs the second train that was with the ride when it opened in 2008, wherever that raced off to. Now onto the Vekoma Boomerang. Honestly, it is what it is. Again, it might not be too bad for me since my head clears the shoulder restraints. Maybe just get the new vest ones. I don't really have much to say about this that isn't common knowledge or that any other YouTuber hasn't already talked about. It's a boomerang. It is what it is. Onto the park's newest coaster, the Gerstlauer Eurofighter Tantrum. This ride is honestly an all-around pro for this park. It's a solid ride, filled with airtime, inversions, laterals. It runs 2 trains, only con I can come up with, and it's more of a nitpick than anything. It's a short ride. Heck, the ops on this ride are the fastest of any of the ones that I've had throughout my visits to the park this year. Not to mention, in my case, I was able to cheat the restraint most of the time and get a heck of a lot of airtime going over that beyond vertical drop. Not much more to say about this one. It's a solid keeper in my book. Now onto the park's star ride, the original Intamin Hyper or Mega Coaster. Superman Ride of Steel. Now, like I said early on, the one train ops and crowded platform are definitely negatives. However, my other personal gripe with this one, and it's only because it's an older ride, the ops need to staple you in order to get the ride sensors to clear to run the ride. Also, this in turn makes the dispatches an absolute nightmare. If you're lucky, it'll be a 3 to 4 minutes between dispatches of the trains leaving and entering the station. Most times, it's over 5 minutes. Because of the stapling, this has the added negative of killing most of the chances of airtime you could get on this ride. However, while I sound like a hater of this ride, it is my favorite in the park, and that's due in part to its long length and ride time. It also has the regular, normal T-bar restraint, which makes it better than the U-bricks with the shin guards that I remember it having years ago. And now, on to everyone's favorite roller coaster at the park that people line up hours and hours to ride, the premier ride of Six Flags Darien Lake, the Din Wooden Coaster Predator! I'll see myself. This ride's just terrible. Well, most of the time. For some reason, my annual one and done in case it's scrapped ride in 2021 was surprisingly enjoyable. Maybe it's my defensive riding. Maybe it's just I've been beat up by this thing a heck of a lot worse. Who knows? Whatever that is. Whatever happens to this thing, whether it's a GCI Titan Track revamp, an RMC hybrid conversion, hell, even if they decide to pull off a GCI retrack of the whole ride and add Titan Track to the worst and add Millennium Flyers to this ride, it could jump back up. It's got a decent layout. It just needs some love and care that Din could never give any of their coasters. Only time will tell what Predator's fate truly is. Hopefully, we get some answers toward the end of the summer of 2022, and hopefully we'll have a true answer for the 2023 season. Now, this video has probably gone on the lengthier side, but I do want to finish it up by talking about the two holiday events for this park. The first is Six Flags Fright Fest. I happened to visit on my last time in the park this year. We mainly went to ride the coasters. We walked through the scare zones. There really weren't much to talk about. There's like one scare actor. Now, whether this is all because of, again, the pandemic, who knows. We also heard people saying the pay-for haunted houses weren't that good. Again, maybe next year will be a different story. But let's talk about the more positive holiday event, and that's the new for 2021 Magic of Holiday Lights. I got the chance to check this out, and it blew my expectations. With the Western New York weather, I cannot ever see this getting a true holiday in the park event. This drive-through light display was a great addition and adds one more reason to visit the park, almost year-round. Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you want to see more park content, give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel and checking out our other videos. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the parks.